I want to talk about how to find the inventory turns using Yahoo Finance. The instructions say to use Google Finance, but Google a couple years ago changed their format of the data they present, and Yahoo did not. So you could have used either Yahoo or Google. They're very similar back then. But right now, I really suggest that you use Yahoo Finance. So I did a search for Yahoo Finance, and I found it here. Here's Yahoo Finance. So I want to do Ford Motor because we're not doing manufacturing, so I'm going to do two manufacturing companies, AutoZone and Ford Motor. These are both extremes on it. So if I do a search on Ford, F is the symbol. I click on that and it gives me, the stock price for Ford. It was the first company I worked for, so if I look at a 5-year run, Ford has had a tough time. Their stock prices come down, and it was only at like 12, 7, like somewhere around $17 back here, or 15.80, and now it closed today at $5.03. So they're hurting with this sharp decline due to the COVID thing. No one's buying cars. But that's not what we're here for. I want to look at their financials, and I want to then capture the numbers that are required to calculate their inventory turns. So here's a spreadsheet that I have. Let me bring it in here, and I'm going to make it smaller. So if we look here, I've got some old Abbott data in a format that I use all the time. You're welcome to use this format. It's in some of the example files in the in this week. So no need to reconstruct the wheel if you don't want. And I copy it and I bring it over here to this new spreadsheet or worksheet, and I do a paste. But instead of Abbott, I want to call it Ford. And what did we say it was? And it was thousands of dollars. So I think the same thing is here. This is all numbers in thousands. So in thousands of dollars. Now they have at the end, the fiscal year ended the 2019, 2018, 2017. So that's the latest data I have. So I'm going to change it. 2019, 2018, 2017. I'm going to probably make that a little bit bigger so we can, and I'll make this a little bit bigger. And there we have it. So you can see this data. So if I want to capture the total revenue for the past 3 years, the revenue here, and if I zero all this out, you'll see a lot of division by zero. So I am going to enter the revenue for 3 years, the cost of revenue, which is the cost of goods sold, cash, their cash position, and their inventory level. Then I want to calculate the average inventory, which is you take the 2017, 2018 inventory, and that will be the inventory, the average inventory for these 2 years becomes the average inventory here, and here we get these 2 years, 2018, 2019 will be the average inventory here. Inventory turns are calculated by average inventory divided by cost of revenue, much like the formula I gave you. Same thing for here. Days coverage is the inverse of inventory turns times 365. And then if we look at cash inventory as a percent of sales, we divide the average inventory by the revenue. And if we look at cash as a percent of sale, we divide the cash by the sales. So it automatically calculates all this stuff. So what's the inventory here, or what's the revenue for Ford? 155,900, 155,900. And it's 163,338. And 156. 776. Ford is a huge company. I mean, they're selling 156 billion. They went up to 160. Now in 2019, they're down to 155. Who knows what they're going to be this year? So that's my cost of revenue, and that's on the basically balance sheet. And I'm sorry, I'm looking at annually, which is what I'm doing. Then the cost of revenue is 134,693. So you see that they've only had their gross profit was only 20 billion. So when you take all the other cash out there, they're not going to be really profitable. 136,269. I developed these sheets when I was working as a consultant and helping people analyze their inventory positions versus their competitors, because no one really knows how much inventory they should have and what's best in class, what should we have. And that's why I continue with this kind of exercise. So there we go. I've got my revenue and cost of goods sold. Now, cash and inventory are in a different location. I've got to go to the balance sheet to get those. So I bring my sheet back over here. And now if I want to look at inventory, it's right here. And there's 3 years. So they have $10 billion of inventory at any given time. 11 and 10. So their inventory is, a large percentage. So let's put the inventory in as 10,786, 10,786, 11,220, and 10,277. So all of a sudden you see we got all kinds of stuff here. The inventory turns are 7. That seems really low for Ford. Do I have the right inventory? 10, 11, 10. I'm going to have to check that again. Oh, inventory turns are here high. I'm sorry. We have their turns are at 12, which consumer goods companies are like 5. Procter & Gamble is maybe 6. Colgate is definitely in the 5s usually. The day's coverage is 29. Well, if you think of how many cars they have sitting on the lots and developed, they do have 30 days of cars usually sitting around. So that seems like an accurate number. Inventory as a percent of sales is 7.1%. It's gone up. It was 6.7 last year. But then their sales went down. So let's get to cash. Let's cash and cash equivalents. And let's look at total cash. I think you can look at cash. You don't have to, I guess short-term investments mean that you can turn that back into cash quickly. So let's use this, 33,951. Whatever one you use, just be consistent. 33,951, 38,927. And the reason I was doing this was trying to see if inventory went up or down, did cash go up or down? And theoretically it should, but it doesn't really, because there's many reasons cash could go up and down. 38,827. The reasons being, you could buy back stock, you could sell stock, you could buy a company, you could sell a company, you could take a big loan, you could pay off a big loan, you could give a dividend, you could cut dividends. There's all kinds of reasons cash changes. So if we look at here, inventory turns are 12. That seems low. I think it used to be 17. Let's go back over here and look at the income statement again. And we've got the right numbers in there. for revenue and cost of revenue, but their inventory does seem high, or it does seem lower than it used to be. And what do we get here? If we look at inventory, yeah, see, when the inventory was here, if we would include this, if we take 8, let's say it's just to round it off to 9 billion, and that's the numbers I actually remember, 9 billion, and turn it back over to here. And the cost of revenue is 126. So if inventory turns, our cost of revenue divided by that. So if we take equals 126 divided by 9, you're getting 14 inventory turns. So they used to be higher than that. And I think they used to be in the 15s and 16s. But since sales they've been struggling with sales, their inventory turns have gone down. And they're probably carrying more inventory than they used to. So anyway, this is Ford. 12 inventory turns, 28, 29, 29, 30 days coverage. Inventory is 6 to 7% of sales, and cash is 24 to 21. And notice how the cash dropped, but the inventory didn't go up that much. And maybe the inventory went up just a little bit. That might have been it. It went up $1 billion, but cash went down $5 billion. So it's not just inventory, it's other things. All right, so let's label this Ford. And now let's make another one for AutoZone, which is another automotive company. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this time I'm going to take the Ford data, I think. Copy. Put it over here and paste it. And I'm going to call it now AutoZone. And I'm going to erase all this. I'm going to make this bigger too so we can actually see it. I'm just going to erase the parts that are my entry. So I go back up here and I'm going to search for AutoZone. AZO is a symbol. And I look at AutoZone, let's see how their stock fared. Their stock did not go down. I'm looking at just one day, but let's look at 5 years. It did. It's suffered a drop. When is the date there? From January 1, it's just been a steadily downhill because of this COVID thing, I guess. So let's look at their financials. We're looking at, again, 19, 18, 17. You can see it's a much smaller company than Ford. So let's enter those numbers. And what are the sales are 11,863. I don't need, if I want to round it up, I can make it 864. Let's not use the decimal place. And it's not going to hurt anything. 11,221, 11,221. I just saw recently that the founder of AutoZone just passed away in the past couple weeks. 889. All right, so what's the cost of revenue? 54.99. 54.99. The ratio of cost of revenue to sales is different than Ford's. It's probably more beneficial to their gross profit. 52.47 and 51.49. And now I've got to do my inventories and cash. So I go to the balance sheet. And what do I want to look at here? Let's move this up. Cash, total cash. Well, here cash and cash equivalents, there's only one line, total cash. So let's use total cash here. 176,300. All numbers in thousands. What was the other sheet? All number in thousands. So it was. It's like 12 billion. I'm so confused. Sometimes I get confused by this stuff. And I want to go back and look at Ford. Let's look at their financials. Yeah, I think I was looking at millions. So I may have to go back and put it in millions. That's the problem with doing this. If you're not careful, you can misrepresent things. So it's not thousands. Now we're talking millions. So 155, it's 155 billion. So this has to be in I think, do I want to change those numbers? Thousands. Yeah, I want to change it. And MM is a symbol I use for millions. And AutoZone, I'm going to do the same thing. It doesn't matter if your teams do it in other ways because we're looking at the ratios. These are managerial accounting ratios. So these numbers down here aren't going to change anything. As long as whatever these are, it doesn't matter if you have exact dollars, if you have thousands, if you have hundreds of thousands, and here like we have millions. It doesn't matter because the ratios, all the decimal places go away when you take the ratio. So let's look at AutoZone again. And I've got it done properly. But I'm still looking at Ford here, so it's AZN if I recall. AZN is AstraZeneca, AZO is AutoZone. There we go. And financials. And I want to look at the balance sheet now. And I probably should redo this whole video, but I think it's important for you to see that, even though I do this a lot, I still end up talking to myself when I'm doing it. Sometimes if you're not here and I'm not videotaping it, you'll actually hear me cursing at Excel. Well, there's your entertainment value tonight. Okay, so cash. 176,300. We have a lot of cash. More than their cost of goods. 217. One way to run a company is to have a large cash position. They have a lot of cash. 293. And then let's look at their average inventory. Their inventory is 4 billion because they have to have every part of every car. 4,319. They're 3,944. 944. and then 3882. Okay, so there we go. There's our average inventories. Their inventory turns are only one. They only turn their inventory one time a year. Why is that? Because they're a parts company. They have to have the parts of every car available. They have 274 days coverage, 272 days coverage. Their inventory as a percent of sales is ridiculously high at 34 and 38 compared to Ford, which was 7. But it's the nature of the business. Autos move much faster than parts do. And a lot of parts sit there waiting for someone to buy them, and they have to have them, a wide variety of parts for a wide variety of cars for a wide number of years to sell it. That's why I picked these two companies so you could see these two extremes. But they're cash. They're in a wonderful cash position. They should be able to weather this horrible economic downturn that we're entering into. Ford, they don't have as much. I mean, AutoZone has more cash than Ford. That's crazy. How does that happen? But they do. It doesn't even make sense to me. Is that really true? It's thousands of dollars. Oh no, they only have cash of 176 because I was rounding these off. When I was looking at, see, here's the problem. You got to be very, very careful. See how many numbers are here? See how many numbers are there? They don't have that much cash. They have 309. So their cash is 176. It couldn't possibly be the case. That's why you have to pay attention and make sure that you're not 218. And this is 293. All right, now we're talking. I know the inventory turns are right, and the cash as a percent of sales is also very small. Inventory is high. Inventory percent of sales is high. Cash percent of sales is low. And cash is on the low side. The key thing I want to show here is how little our inventory turns compared to a company like Ford, where they turn the inventory 12 times a year, 12 and a half times a year. So this is why we do inventory analysis. You just saw maybe not at my best tonight doing this, but I think it gives you hope that, gee whiz, a professor stumbles through this thing. And I swear to God, some days I'm like brilliant at it and have no issues. And then other times I do exactly what I just did now. But make sure the numbers make sense to you. Okay? Thank you very much. And I will post this video and I will post this file. And don't ask for a tuition refund because I stumbled through it so badly. The end result was correct.